who are we? CCLA difference what? Difference makers.
We're going to get started because I'm realizing that this is a 1 hour session and I planned for an hour and a half. So there that goes. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Happy day two, CCLA. Hello, virtual audience as well. I'm Arienne Rusgal, and I work here at the County Office of Education for Santa Clara as a math coordinator. And our session today is about culturally sustaining pedagogy in mathematics. As I'm looking out here, and I'm sure in the virtual audience too, I feel like I'm going to be preaching to the choir a little bit, but we'll see. So hopefully I have some golden nuggets that you can bring back too. Okay, and we should probably use the clicker. But so these are our session goals for today. We really want to connect to the importance of culturally sustaining pedagogy with learning acceleration and experience some culturally responsive math routines, and we'll run through a lesson as well, and then talk about how to make math tasks more culturally relevant, and if we have time, do a little bit of redesign time. Okay. All right, and then to access our slides for today, you can use this. I suggest that you do because there are going to be some things that you can click, some links that are in there that bring us to either websites or if you like or you just prefer typing to writing, then I have some Google Doc note catcher things in there as well. So that is our slide deck, and it's going to show up.
Yeah, I'm in the wrong one. So
it is not case sensitive, as from what I'm hearing, but it's CSP Math CCLA. All right. I should have been a really good teacher and wrote it on chart paper, as I'm realizing right now, but it'll pop up again. Okay. All right. So we're going to start off, if this works. Let's see. Okay. Try again. Not working. Okay. We're going to start off with a really, really quick connect. And Brittany, if you could kind of start to create breakout rooms for just maybe like 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. Let's get to know one another. So there are 6 prompts here. Okay. I want you to just kind of choose one that resonates with you that we can share in our breakout rooms or at our tables. Okay. Some of us, I know that a lot of us know each other too. So if you wanted to branch out and meet some new folks, we could do so. Mm-hmm. And as I'm reading this right now, I'm like thinking of the things that we have. Concentration. I guess I can speak to number 2. So in our household, we're Christian, but we actually don't celebrate like, I guess, typical Christian holidays like Christmas and it's not a Christian holiday, but Christmas and like Easter, any of those kinds of things. We're very like strictly Bible based. And so one thing that we do at church though is we hold like an annual Thanksgiving worship service just to thank God for all the things he's done for us year after year after year. And that's something that we're now passing down to our children. And so when they go out and they have friends that celebrate Christmas or they celebrate Diwali or they celebrate whatever else, they say, they're learning to say like, oh yeah, I don't celebrate Christmas, but we do this. And so that's something that we're passing down to our children too. So let's go ahead and take a couple minutes, go ahead and turn and talk, introduce yourself if you don't know one another, and just share one of your responses to the questions on the left. All right, friends, we're gonna go ahead and have everyone kind of close up your conversations. I know the breakout rooms are about to close up if they haven't already. Okay, note to self, don't do turn and talks. I know. Okay. We should check to see if this is working or not. Okay. All right, so we're gonna do, thanks for engaging in that and getting to know one another. We're gonna do a very, very quick, just kind of Mentimeter here about what does culturally sustaining pedagogy in mathematics, just what does it mean to you? Okay, when you hear that, what comes to mind? What phrases? What do you see? What do you hear? Go ahead and select the QR code. It is a Mentimeter, and even if you don't see the QR code, I can bring it up right now so that we can all see it together. So don't worry, it'll come back, or actually, it won't come back. But you will see it here. Isn't it? And it has the code. So even if you just go to menti.com and use that code, that's probably better because then we can just see it populate. Make sure to go to mentimeter.com. Don't go there, but menti.com. Just get a little pulse of the room. Content based on lived experience, word problems that are culturally relevant. Teaching that can reach all students, regardless of backgrounds and differences. Classroom practices that elevate the lived experience of the students in the room. Five two two three 1371. Making sure that students feel that what they're learning is important to them, accessing their prior knowledge. Creating relevance to cultures and real life experiences and problem solving. Sustain doesn't mean healing. It's that whole keeping it going piece, right? Because we can make things culturally relevant, but if we're only doing like, hey, this is culturally relevant Friday, like, then it's not going to have an impact if it's like only once in a while. Right? We're not sustaining that mindset if it's only valuing and including students' experiences and cultures into the classroom. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we just wanted to get a little bit of a pulse of the room, and it looks like we are already coming in with a lot of prior knowledge, a lot of experience with it. So I'm hoping that some of the routines that we shared today and some of the, especially the way that we can design and assess culturally relevant math tasks will be helpful today too. All right, so just a little plug. We already know that with the new California mathematics framework, that cultural and personal relevance is called out in the 3 dimensions and also in the 5 components of equitable and engaging teaching, right? So as administrators, most of us are, we need to make sure that we are elevating that cultural and personal relevance as a system, right? Like that is part of our district LEA culture. And that's what we're putting at the forefront. Okay. So here's this quote from dimension number 3. Cultural and personal relevance is important for learning and also for creating mathematical communities that reflect California's diversity. Educators can learn to notice, utilize, and value students' identities, assets, and cultural resources to support learning for all students. So I say this, I think, every time I talk about the framework, but I'll say it again, like back in the 2013 framework, right? Cultural relevance was like in the appendix, right? It was something that was not put at the forefront, but now it's at the forefront of this particular framework, which means that this is good math teaching, right? This is not just a supplemental thing. This is something that really needs to be brought out in order to engage all of our students. This graph, as we know, is also in chapter 2, and we've had discussions about this time and time again. So I know I don't really need to get deep into it, but when we take a look at what's there, right, we know that we don't have a choice, right? If we do not do something different, if we do not do something radical, if we don't change our mindset and the systems that we have, then we're not going to be able to impact, any change. So like I mentioned, it's also part of the 5 components, and especially within that teach towards social justice component. And these are the 5 components that we're really trying to get teachers, right, to adhere to in our classrooms. So culturally sustaining pedagogy is actually one of the main components of learning acceleration, right? Without this component right here, we're not going to be able to push the learning forward for our students. Like someone mentioned in our Mentimeter, accessing or assessing prior knowledge, right? That's huge. Prior knowledge, prior experience, their cultural funds of knowledge, all of those kinds of things. If we don't know where a student is at, we cannot propel them forward, right? If we don't know who our students are, we cannot propel them forward. Okay. So we're going to do some math. This next task is actually from Dr. Julia Aguirre. A couple years ago, as a county, we entered into a grant with her around mathematical modeling as she was doing her research around that, and that was through EQ-STEM. So if you actually click this, it'll take you to her EQ-STEM website where you can kind of see some of her modeling tasks. She does have a culturally relevant math task framework that's really, really, really powerful that I'm not going to talk about today, but it is linked in her website, and it gives us some really good insight as far as what dimensions we need to have with culturally relevant math tasks. Okay. On your tables, I think you have them on your tables. There is a mathematizing the world routine, kind of note taker, note catcher. So if you're one who likes to process on your own, you can choose to write. And then for those of us that are in the virtual world, I don't think I put a link, but we can put our noticings and wonderings in the chat as we go on. Okay. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of math. Keep clicking this like it's going to go somewhere. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay. So this is what we call a mathematizing the world routine. Okay. Now in the chat or at your tables, what do you know about plastic bags? You're going to just popcorn it out here too. They cost a lot. Uh-huh. Yeah, I always forget them.
They're bad.
Bad, way like super bad for the environment. Toxic, yeah.
They're reusable.
They're reusable. In the chat or
Terrible for the environment.
Nicole said terrible for the environment. So she and Ethan are in like mind with that. Dennis, you mentioned something? Interesting. Right, because they've made them like extra thick with the hope that you're going to bring them back.
Turns out almost no, right?
Right. Mhm.
So now there's just thicker bags decomposing slower.
Yes.
I was gonna say, they're so, I mean, okay, how much fun they're hurting all those animals too.
Right. So huge environmental issue there. Okay. Now here, and maybe we'll give like a 3-minute breakout room, same. What do you notice about these images? What do you wonder? What do you connect with? So we might say, well, I notice, I wonder, or use any of our 5 W's and how, or this reminds me of. And it's up to you how you process. If you like to process verbally right away, go for it. If you are the note taker kind of person, I provide a note catcher for you. Let's go ahead and take just 2 minutes or so, 2 to 3 minutes to just, what do you notice about these images? What do you wonder? And what can you connect to? You can talk, you can write, up to you. apologize to the virtual audience because I'm gonna write and writing and trying to use a microphone at the same time just does not happen. So let's go ahead and try this. Stay. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and kind of take from the room, and then Brittany, you can share what they said in the chat too. What did you notice?
Lots of plastic bags.
Lots of plastic bags. Go ahead and popcorn it out because I am not looking.
Doesn't look great.
Doesn't look, is that a noticing for us? Yeah, or doesn't look great. What else do we notice?
They're caught in the tree.
Caught in the trees.
Shrub.
And there's just so many of them.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the norm now. You see this unfortunately everywhere.
See.
It's so sad.
Everywhere. It's the norm. Anything else we notice? Nope.
The mountains in the background are looks like it's such a beautiful.
That's why I said it's such a pretty day otherwise.
Yeah.
It seems to be the only garden.
No, only garbage. Beautiful day.
They're very noticeable. Right?
Mhm. Plastic bags are like the only garbage. Okay, anything in the chat, Brittany?
Nicole said the negative sticks.
Negative sticks. Negative sticks. Okay, what about wonderings?
People do that.
Why?
Why do people do
Just
that?
why? Right.
I was wondering, this is like a massive. That went by, or this is a gradual thing that because of the wind pattern or whatever, that they just get caught there.
What is this? Massive.
Wondering about the wind pattern too, because living in Southern California, you know,
Ah,
an awful lot of those thicker birthday balloons that are Mylar plastics, they actually end up in joshua tree.
oh, really?
Patterns in Southern California, you can go to this area of joshua tree and find hundreds of them,
Huh.
That
Yeah.
makes me so happy every birth.
Brittany,
right?
you say in the chat?
Yeah, so Nicolette
Mm-hmm.
noted and her group noticed that the bags were from different places.
Hmm.
So they wondered where the locations are. It doesn't seem to be near a grocery store.
Mm-hmm. What's the location?
Is it located next to the store or is it like next to a highway or
Mhm.
is it behind somebody's yard or?
Next to store, highway.
I wonder how long it does take for them to. You can follow these.
Oh. How long to decompose? All right. Okay, and then any connections? Oh, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and write down Dennis's connection about what you said, Joshua Tree and the Mylar balloons, right? Mhm. Hmm?
Next steps to take.
Yeah. Is that a wondering, Suzanne?
I think it'd be also connection,
Okay.
like how people can brainstorm and do some design thinking about how we can fix this.
Next.
Kristen shared
Mhm,
that her husband, did some backpacking,
mhm.
and he comes back with picks up plastic bags and Mylar balloons. It's like,
Really?
Where he's gone
yeah.
in the elevation, there's always Mylar plastic bags.
I don't even know if I'm spelling Mylar balloons right, but
I don't. That's right.
Oh,
They catch those.
that's what I think, even in a dump. They blame on
It's around trash.
Right. Okay.
What maybe in the chat said, was there a big windstorm that blew from a dumpster?
Uh-huh. Dumpster or trash, that connection, wondering.
I'm more wondering,
Mm.
and probably connection too, because I
Yeah.
think we've all seen.
I have more room under connection, so it's gonna be a connection, right? No, I'm kidding.
I guess I have another wonder,
Uh-huh.
because I was noticing how like it's all dry
Mm-hmm.
to the foreground. If that, if it's but maybe this is like a dry riverbed. and there's
Oh,
Water.
so now it goes here.
Yeah. For a river.
Oh, right.
Right. Yeah.
Connections here. Ventura River connections. Okay. All right. So let's take a look now. Now that let's take a look at some of our wonderings and maybe our questions. Are any of these math questions? Yeah, massive grad, like time, uh-huh. Yeah, this one could be a math question. Any of our others, so the massive event or gradual one, can graphing the time. Location.
from a grocery store.
Mhm. Coordinate planes, the whole thing, right? Mapping, yeah, scaling. Mhm.
Because math is all about pattern,
Mhm.
and this is the pattern, unfortunately, all the time, so it's just a pattern of making something repetition over and over.
And patterns, repetition.
I would also say the really cause and effect.
Uh-huh. Okay. Oh, cause and effect. I'll write that one down too. Okay. And then I think we even have here the question of how long to decompose. Right.
And also teaching, hey, you talk about spatial relationship,
Uh-huh.
the graphs, or the way they're located.
Right.
They're above, below, when they're attacked.
Mhm. Right.
The lots of thing, like this could be accounting.
Lots, how many, right? How many?
Yeah.
If we bring it to our youngest students, they can even have that wondering, right? Like, how many are there? What colors are they? How might I group them? Because we notice that they're different bags, right? We could even do that.
Image. Like
Reasoning, right?
there.
Yeah, we could use that with a quick image too. And so we know that there's not, like, even though none of these are necessarily like number oriented fully, right? We have a lot of math in the wonderings that we have. Brittany?
Amy asked, how different brand.
Mhm. Yeah, all of those how many kinds of questions. And so with the mathematical routine like this, a lot of times, a teacher, according to Dr. Gary, like we might jumpstart a lesson with this, right? This might be like day one, let's just do some noticings. And then she would invite students to do a modeling task. She has different modeling tasks, like making tasks, sharing tasks, and I'm blinking on the third one right now. But the one that we're going to look at right now is a making task based off of the plastic bags. And since I'm talking with a bunch of educators, I just kind of wanted to like walk through quickly into how the lesson might unfold and have us reflect upon like, how is this a culturally relevant math task? Okay. So she launches it with, how do we keep plastic bags out of landfills? Right? What can we do? And at the time that this grant happened, upcycling, it was a huge deal, right? So you see that plastic bags are used as a bowl to create a vase or even bags or jewelry, and then or even as jump ropes too. Okay. So as a class, they're going to upcycle plastic bags to make jump ropes. And so she'd continue to launch, get the kids buy-in with like, what do we know about jump ropes? How do they feel? How do they look? What do you use them for? Just have them make noticings of the images, just like what we have right over here. Right? So you notice there's a lot in the launch, right? There's a lot in the launch, a lot of getting their ideas, a lot of their feedback, a lot of what do you know? What have you experienced with whatever the topic is? So she goes through the exact same protocol that we just did right now. The notice, the wonder, what are some math questions that we might ask? she sets them off into some kind of social action. Thing here, like so we have so many plastic bags, let's make a jump rope set for all of fourth grade or PE. All right. And as they're diving into this lesson, she asks them to think about these questions. What do we know that can help us figure out how many plastic bags we need? What do we need to find out? And what assumptions do you have to make? So you notice that she's really trying to assess their prior knowledge at this point, right? Having them be the mathematicians, and instead of giving them the numbers, saying like, well, what do we need to know? Well, we might need to know how many students in PE class, right? Oh, I know that jump ropes are different lengths and different people, depending on your height, you might need a longer jump rope or a shorter jump rope. They might be saying things like that. They might be assuming that there's a class of like 30, or they might be saying, well, we need to find out, right? How many plastic bags do we have? What kinds of materials are we dealing with? And we need to find out how to make them, right? How much material we're going to need. Okay, so they would take the class through something like this, having them figure out what they know, what they need to find out, and what they can assume. And kind of like 3-act math tasks where they might give a little bit of information, but slowly and surely, right? So they give this type of information that you would need a 7-foot jump rope in order to, or for a 4'6" tall student or person, right? And then from here, they might be like, no, fourth graders who are 10 feet or who are 6'2" or 6'7". So we might not need that, right? So they're really figuring out what's going to be important information that they're going to need. Okay. And then she takes them through literally how to make the jump rope. And it's a YouTube video. It's just a YouTube video. So they go through the entire process. This is the literal link to the video. They give them information, like 3 plastic bags will braid into about 12 inches long. Shows them the steps, allows them to try. And then she says, use pictures, numbers, words to show a plan for how we can figure out how many jump ropes you might need, right? So the kids get into groups and they say, this is going to be our idea and this is how we're going to use math to help us. So nowhere is she saying like, today we're going to learn, right? Like it is all embedded within the context. So they have to use what they already know how to do in order to accomplish it. Okay. And so what I have here for you, and Brittany, if you could go and put the links in the chat, on her website, she actually shows the modeling lesson, and she even gives some student work too. So I want us to think about what student assets are revealed in the work that you see, what mathematical concepts and skills are being used, and how did the students draw on their own knowledge and experiences from school, home, and community as they worked on the task. So at your tables, I'll give you a copy of the actual, I guess, pretty much what the lesson is, and then some of the student work. So let's take maybe like 5 minutes or so just to browse through and think about that.
When it's district, I went to
That's right. We can't be friends. I'm just kidding.
I'm a cutie. And my folks live like, from Wayne.
Oh, okay.
There's a bunch, there's gonna be two
Yeah, my
teachers
mom,
that are
she's
coming
doing
through, but
Yeah,
you know, I think
My folks.
It's so expensive now.
and I'm like, you don't realize, gosh, these
Okay, all right. Anything you noticed about either the student work or even the lesson? What kind of maths the students were using? Because they all look different, right? They all represented it in a different way. Anything? Like what kind of maths are coming out in the things that what the kiddos are doing? Mhm.
well, estimation that they're doing.
Lots of estimation. Uh-huh.
Being able to talk, you know, and write it out freely and being able to put their words into actual
Mhm.
phrases is really important for them.
Right.
You know, we're trying to get them to think about like,
Labeling, talking it out, sharing in phrases and sentences. Mhm. Uh-huh.
yeah.
Organization. Yep. Multi-step. Yep.
Put this on thin ropes, different.
Mhm. Some using, almost number line looking things. A few of them using some just actual expressions. You see like the lines going everywhere, right? One is even trying to model like if I had this person who was however tall. Brittany in the chat.
And first says, using skip counting number line.
Yeah, using skip counting, number lines, the whole thing. Right.
Say working like about the amount of exposure they have, the different strategies to solve one.
Yes. Right. I was working with a group of teachers who were like, how do I get my kids to estimate? Like, and they would do the whole, estimate first or estimate after to be able to check for reasonableness or, that kind of deal. But it's like a naked problem. It's like literally like 23 times 30, whatever. And they want them to estimate. But it's like, there's no, like, why? Why would I do that? I remember as a fourth grader too, being like, who cares? Like, why would I do that? But with this, right, where they don't necessarily need to get super exact, you're giving them all the reason, like, to estimate, right? And they're actually using it in something that's, I guess, quote unquote, real world. Okay, so we're going to jump into, because I think I have 15 minutes. We're going to jump into designing and assessing culturally relevant math tasks. A lot of this is going to be taken from the book Engaging in Culturally Relevant Math Tasks, familiar? Right, by Shelley Jones, Lou Matthews, Yolanda Parker. They have an elementary version, and then they also have a middle school, high school version as well. And I really appreciated the way they just kind of broke down the process so that it didn't feel so intimidating, I think. Okay, so I was just talking with Ethan a little bit about this right now. And in the beginning, when we did that Mentimeter, a lot of us said, it's about the students' lived experiences, things that they go through in life, things that connect to their own lives, their own families, their own cultures. And we know this metaphor very, very well, right? The idea of windows, mirrors, sliding glass doors. And a lot of times it's used with literacy, right? Making sure we have books in our classrooms that the students can see themselves in, that they can look and learn about other cultures. And the added piece here is that sliding glass door, where now they can actually step into the world, right? Step into another world that, Narnia, step into a world that they don't get to experience on a regular, right? And be able to make some change with that. And so we were just having a discussion about jump ropes. It may not be part of that school's culture, or maybe it is. But in tasks like this, we can build, right, that culture, and the students can have ownership agency around, them creating the jump ropes for their school, right? It ends up becoming something. And so just because of time, right? What do you think? Was the making jump ropes task representative of more of a window, a mirror, or a sliding glass door? In your own opinion? A sliding glass door. And why do you think so, Ethan? Mhm. Yeah,
And like, I wrote the image of great,
right.
like sitting around and then singing songs.
Hmm.
That's culture.
Right.
But the culture looks like in so many different ways, right? So that it's actually.
We're stepping into the world, right? Maybe if jump roping was a huge deal, because I remember like in third grade, like it was all about tetherball, right? So it just kind of depends, right? But if it is actually part of it, could be more of a mirror in the beginning, and then it becomes a sliding glass door because now they're doing something about it, right? So just that idea. Anything? Anyone else wants to add anything in the chat? Okay. All right, so they define culturally relevant math tasks as mathematically, and I'm just going to read it just for access. Mathematically rich, higher level, cognitively demanding, and embedded in cultural activity. They explicitly require students to inquire about themselves, their communities, and the worlds around them. And it includes content drawn from students' community, cultural identities, and experiences, affirms student belonging and culture, has an empowerment and learning orientation, asks students to respond to, overcome, and challenge discontinuity and divide between school and their own lives, and requires them to use mathematics to discuss and make sense of the world around them. As a teacher, I felt like when it came to this definition, I was stuck here and here. And I didn't do much of the stuff that would happen in between. I made sure, it was cognitively demanding, that there was there was high rigor with the problem. I made sure that they were discussing and trying to make sense, but I don't know how much of this was going on in my day to day. Okay, so they have these three dimensions for building tasks. Okay, the first one is demand and access. So that's really like making sure that the cognitive demand is there and that there are multiple access points. So this very, very typical math task about listing fractions, being able to reason about them. You cannot use cross multiplication, explain which is larger or which one is larger and explain why, right? There's a lot going on in there, right? Academically, having them do the comparison, they choose how they want to, they have to explain how, right? Demand, lots of demand, multiple access points. The second one is the relevance piece. So here's a naked fraction problem. They keep calling it naked all the way throughout. 5/8 plus 1 2/3. And then they turned it into a cultural context problem about a Japanese kimono, right? Could be a mirror, could be a window, right? But there's some kind of cultural context there. And then I like how instead of it just being how much fabric will Yuki need, they also add in what might Yuki's dream design look like based off of the amount of fabric that they have. So they get a little bit of a design piece there. And then the last one is targeting empathy, agency, and social action in very much the same way the jump rope task did. So this one's just like, how many coins are there in the chest? And the next one adds in not just how much money does the group have, but how much do you think would be needed to build a bike park in your neighborhood? So even just tacking on that one little extension question of now that we know the answer to this, what could we do about it, right? Really brings that together. Okay. Within the book, they also have the CRCD math task rubric, and it goes from emerging, developing to exemplary. So in emerging, this is just lots of cognitive effort, right, in mathematics. It's demanding, there's multiple ways to access it. It draws from other subjects, disciplines, and concepts. Developing is the first one and embedded in cultural self-community inquiry and activity. Okay. So they're embracing community and cultural knowledge. They seek to add this knowledge through the mathematical activity. And the last one is exemplary. So it's the first two, and then also targeting self-community empowerment and social justice. That's really always, no matter what rubric I look at, that whole them becoming the agents of change elevates it to like the highest level, no matter who did the research, it feels like. Because there's always, if they can be the agent of change, then you've really, really like hit it on the head. Okay, so if we take a look at this particular task, okay,
Oh, no.
I was like, I have to stop.
10 minutes.
What? 10 minutes. She means 10. She means 10. Okay. If we look at this particular task, fourth grade, okay, where might, and I should hand this out first to you or find a way to go back. Where might that task about the farmer, I can't do this. I need it side by side. I don't know how to do it anymore. Where might this task of a farmer fit? Yeah. Well, I see like in part one, there's perimeter, then it builds to area, and then the demand is there. So for sure it's emerging.
It depends on like the location of the kids, right?
Yes, too. Mm-hmm.
So they would care about this because they're prepared.
Mm-hmm. Right. So this might already go into at least developing for you because of the context that your students are in. Right. If these are Silicon Valley kids,
They are not learning like this.
yeah, then this might be at emerging, right, for them. Does it call for social action? No. So for sure, we know it's not going to be exemplary. Right. So I guess depending on the context, right, the location of where you're in, it could be emerging. It could be, what was the next one? Developing, right? Could be developing. All right. So what we're going to do, and actually, if we can do this towards the end, just because we're having, we've got some time, we have some tasks here that Brittany's going to drop into the chat, and I have some here too. I've got first grade, seventh grade, and a high school math task. And what the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to rank it according to the rubric. Okay. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to use Pamela Seta's continuum to be able to turn it into what we call a stage 3 or stage 4 math task. Okay. So stage 1, just like the rubric that we just saw right now, cognitively demanding, right? So most of the things that we have in our, well, actually, no, I was going to say curriculum. I'm just going to stop. Okay. A lot of things that we have in that our teachers are using or that we would have our teachers use already fit that stage 1. Stage 2 might be replacing with meaningful names. I was guilty of this. Who was guilty of this? Like, let's do a word problem. Let me just use Ethan's name real quick. And all of a sudden, it is culturally relevant. Right? And it like has nothing to do with anything he's interested in, but because I put Ethan's name, right, everyone's all excited. That would be more of a stage 2. Stage 3 is meaningful context. So not only am I going to use Ethan's name, but now I'm going to use actually something that he's interested in, like biting his nails. I don't know. But I know, we're friends. But now we're going to actually use a context that's meaningful. In this case here, and you'll have it on yours, they talk about a local food pantry being flooded. So maybe wherever this takes place, right, they experience flooding. They're familiar with the local food pantry. So now it's a context that's familiar to them. And then just like how stage 4 is, it's them being the agents of change, right, for them to be able to impact change. So we have these tasks, and I'm literally just going to allow you to look at it and maybe talk about how you might, but you can choose first grade, seventh grade, or high school and rank it according to the CRCD rubric and maybe think about how might we make this a stage 3, stage 4 kind of a task.
It reminds me of like a STEM.
Yeah. Trustee room monitor is telling me I have like 4 minutes left. So, but you get the idea, right? You get the idea of kind of going through how might we rank it and I love Pamela Seta's like continuum because it makes it very tangible to do, even with the things that we have in the classroom as of this moment, as we are waiting the so amazing adoption that will be happening. We're just going to have very high hopes that it's not just going to be a stamp, right? But in the meantime, right, we can practice it in this way. This book is great because it also gives practical ways, like using picture books, going on a community walk, like all the different things we can do so that we can make things more culturally relevant for our students. Okay, so check that book out. But if we could kind of sum up our time together, I did want us to think about now, let's make that connection back to learning acceleration, right? How could using these culturally relevant math tasks accelerate our students' learning? Right? How could that help us push their learning forward? Remember, learning acceleration isn't about going fast, right? But it's about looking at where they're at and being able to give them the support that they need to access, grade level content now, right? Not like after I do the review of fractions for 2 weeks, then we can jump into, it's not that remediation piece. So if you could join the digital conversation again, either using the QR code or let me bring this back up. Oops. Go. Luster. This one. Okay. I'll bring up the T for you right now. Bring that. How does the use of the code is 47750871. How does the use of culturally and personally relevant math tasks help accelerate student learning? For those of you who are in the digital world, or even here, if you're on our math slides, the last slide shows the, what is it? The feedback form, the survey for today. And just as a plug, Golden Mohammed is coming on February 6th to do a deep dive into culturally sustaining pedagogy. So I figured since that's my topic, then we should promote that. But February 6th, I don't have the QR code and we should have bought the flyers, Brittany. I didn't think about it until right now. Yeah. But yes, Golden Mohammed's coming and it should be awesome. We'll have a whole day with her. Right? All day. So they feel a sense of belonging and being seen. When students are engaged, they're willing to put in more effort, language rich, get kids more invested in what they're learning about. And when they feel represented, they're more likely to participate and step out of comfort zones to try something hard. Give students access to cognitively appropriate problems. Thank you, right? Like with this one here, I didn't show it to you, but there's a couple slides that actually show like kinder through like 6th grade math standards that are addressed with that jump rope task. And so it spans, right? Builds interest and engagement. And if they can see themselves in it, then they think that they can do it, right? Open and engaging task. Okay. So with the remaining time, if you could do the survey, it is on the slide deck. Is it okay if I move away from this to give you easier access to the survey? And then with that, I believe we have the general session after this. Okay. And I put a few resources here too. One that just came out by Corwin too is mathematics lessons to explore, understand, and respond to social justice. They have it for early elementary, middle school, high school. Right? It's awesome. Yeah, no, this is like old right now for while we're waiting. That goes. Sorry, OT people. Okay. There you go. Thank you for coming. Thanks for being with us today.